the biography.
I did.
Why do
But
you say
they're
you're
not,
not good at writing?
they're not very good. I
Well,
wrote a
that
biography.
right there?
Yes, there
That's
is.
really thick.
Yeah, oh, I got quite a bit done. I start,
Yeah, what do you start with?
I have not got too much of my grandkids because nobody will tell me anything. But I started off with my mother's side of the family, and I wrote what I knew and was told about my grandparents. Cause I had met them, but I didn't really know them.
Grandma Honey's parents, you mean?
Yeah, they lived in Minnesota in Stillwater, so I didn't.
Where were they from? Were they from Iceland originally?
Yes, they originally came from Iceland.
What part of
my
Iceland?
mother, Skagford.
Skagford, Iceland? Is that
No,
anywhere near Reykjavik?
My mother was born. No.
Oh.
My mother was born almost on the Arctic Ocean.
Really?
Yes. She, I have the map right in that box there. And she was born in the county of Borgalock. Sella, Borgalock. The Sella means the house that they were born in. The Borgalock means like the district. And then the other thing is like the county where they lived. And that was Borgalock. And then the house was Sella. And
So Grandma was born in
like
Iceland?
a district of Borgalock, but the county lived in Skagford.
Was she actually born there?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And she came to this country with her mother and the rest of the family, except for her father and two sisters who remained in Iceland until their father came over after he disposed of all their property.
Why did they come over?
Well, I think my grandmother was really the one that wanted to come over and improve their conditions and like that. My grandfather was a captain of a ship which was called the Bluebird. And I think was 8 men rowing on each oar. Eight and eight on each side. They caught whales and salmon and cod and things like that. And then they came in, and there is a poem, several poems about my grandmother in the Icelandic book, and they say about him that he was a lion at sea, but a lamb on
land.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's the translation
Yeah.
of it. And he put up with no nonsense.
On sea.
On sea. Absolutely. Well, no, it meant the lives of his men. Now, in Iceland, everybody is educated.
Yeah.
I would say 98% of the people in Iceland are educated.
You mean well educated?
Yes.
They're not illiterate or anything like that.
There's no illiteracy in Iceland unless it's a person that was born where they just can't learn.
I'm just going to move this here.
And the reason for that is they hire a man or a woman that's a teacher.
Uh-huh.
And they come in and they teach not only the owner's children, but they call in all the farmers' children and those that work on the ranches. They're not, I don't know what they call them, they're either ranches or farms. And they get lessons and they learn. Now, they finish up to, I guess, which would be through high school. Then if they go to college, then they go someplace. My grandmother was going to go to Denmark, genius. Bob Olson, my cousin, is a genius. His mother was a genius.
Genius meaning that
They know everything. He is so smart, he could have that puzzle worked in, I would say, maybe 15 minutes. You give him a puzzle, and he'll have it worked in 2 minutes. I'm talking about a puzzle like this type. No.
Tell me about Grandma Honey, though. She was married 3 times, right? 2 of her husbands died?
Yeah.
Grandpa Parks?
Grandpa Parks, he died.
Who was her first husband?
Sword James Parks.
Okay, that was her first husband.
Yeah.
And that was whose?
And that was my father.
That was your father.
Our father. I was born first. I was born in 1918,
Okay.
October 9th. Then I had a brother that was born in 1922. I think the 30th of August, and 1922, and he died the same day. And his heart and lungs or something wasn't fully developed, so he died. And they baptized him right away. The nuns baptized him. They didn't even have time to hold him in the street. And we were Catholic then.
Yeah.
And but in Iceland, my family were Lutherans. But the reason for that is
Where were you born, by the way?
I was born in Waterville, Washington.
I'm just going to turn this
Yeah,
down for
yeah,
now.
yeah.
I know
Yeah,
you want to watch the news.
Yeah, no, I know.
This is
I
really
was
important.
born in Waterville, Washington.
You were born in Washington.
Yeah, state of Washington, Douglas County.
Which part is that? The eastern Washington or western?
But more eastern, I think,
Okay.
or kind of in middle. I think.
Central one. Yeah, that's where Nyla was born too.
And then my dad became a lawyer, but he was a
Grandpa Parks became a lawyer.
yes, he was he studied law under first a judge, Berkey, in I'm trying to Idaho, and then he got his license in Washington, state of Washington, Nevada, California, and maybe I don't know about Oregon, but about 4 states, I think. And then he had a chance to go. They had a chance to go to Nevada, and he went there and got a couple of cases. And one case was to come down here to San Francisco. And I remember coming here, not so much on the train, but I do remember crossing the Bay Bridge on the ferry boat. And we came in January 1924. And then my sister was born here in San Francisco in July 18th.
Aunt Marge was born here.
Yeah, in 1924 in San Francisco. And they allowed me to see her the next day after she was born.
You were 6 years old.
Yes, and that's rare because they do not allow the children to go see the babies. But
Right.
she was behind glass, and my father came to see my mother and the baby. Fine. They didn't have I guess they didn't know what to do with me, so they just let me go in because it was so.
But you were a good girl.
Yeah, but anyway, then we stayed for a while, and then we went home. But now that's where, because I've never seen this done before, where they allow a child to go see the babies. I mean, they say now they want to have them see the birth of the mothers, and I do not believe in it for one reason, because you don't know if your child's going to come down with some childhood disease, measles, mumps, or something, and it could spread right there, and then because
Plus, it may be traumatic for the child. They may not understand it.
yeah, well, but mainly I count it because it takes 2 weeks for if
To
you
show
get
up?
to show up.
Yeah.
And how do you know that you're not walking
Right.
a child into a delivery room? And
I wanted to ask you about. You told me this once before years ago about Grandma Honey. She had during the war, World War II. I think she had a job as one of the first women supervisors of a fabric company or something. What
no,
was that?
what happened? My mother, when the Depression really got bad, my mother went down to the sewing project. Now this was in San Francisco. The first day that she went to work, by people, the ladies were coming around her asking her how to sew this, that, and the other thing. The woman who was in charge, I think she was called a foreman, came up and noticed this. So she put my mother in charge of something like 8 tables and had my mother walk around and kind of instruct these women that didn't know how to sew too good. And which my mother did, and within a month or 2, my mother was made a supervisor of that whole floor. And she kept going up and up, and the FBI kept a record of her. And she knew it, but she didn't say anything.
Why did they keep a record?
Well, they did that in those days.
Okay. Was it Hoover?
When Herbert Hoover was in charge, he kept track of everybody. And my mother learned and told this man. He came in as a cutter of goods, of materials. And my mother said to him one day, she says, "You're an FBI agent, aren't you?" And he said, yes. He did not deny it. And then my mother was given such a high recommendation from him that when the war broke out, he wrote her a letter asking her if she would run the Japanese concentration camps that they had. But if you were Japanese, you were put in a camp, even if you were loyal to the United States. And I knew a lot of loyal Japanese people, but I mean, you couldn't prove it, and they were scared to death of the Japanese. And but we had one in our class. He was a spy for the United States, yet he was Japanese. But these were kids, they were born here.
Yeah.
What did they know about Japan, except for, it's just like, if your parents were born in a foreign country, you could say, well, my parents came from Germany or wherever they came from. But it wouldn't mean anything to you, that much to you. I mean, your loyalty still, or should be at least, to the United States. And that's how many are Japanese. They weren't mean to them or anything like that, Rose told me. Her name was really Yoshio, but she was, that we called her Rose in school. I've known her since I was in the 4th grade.
You were in the 4th grade when Grandma was working there and World War II started?
Well, I think the World War started the year Joy was born, 1939. Yeah, I heard it on television. I can remember hearing it. But anyway, they put all the Japanese, and if they had any relatives in Japan, then they were sent to separate camps, and that's what happened to my girlfriend Rose. She was sent to Idaho because her sister was over there, raised by her grandmother, who she really didn't know, because her mother had died in childbirth, see. So the father didn't know what to do with the baby. And he was a janitor, so he sent the baby to Japan to be raised by the grandmother. And so she never knew her sister until she got old enough to be able to write to Rose. You know, Rose could speak Japanese and like that. So
well, when Grandma Honey was offered that, what happened?
well, the headquarters was here in Santa Rosa, and from what I understand, the sewing project, this was the headquarters, and she was in charge of it from the Mexican border to Canada, and the full length of the
Country.
not the country.
No, full length
I
of the
mean,
country.
say a certain section.
Yeah.
Say like so many states from the border of, you know, it may have covered Arizona and New Mexico.
Right, but the western United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
wow.
and she had a letter from President Roosevelt, I think more than one, but I actually saw one of them. And in those days, they didn't stamp for me. It was handwritten. I don't mean the letter, but I mean his signature was, yeah. And she had to start with I forget if it was a typewriter. But anyway, then she closed the project here, and she was the last one to leave.
What did they do? Did they make clothing for the soldiers?
They made clothing for the poor, because when we had that 1929 crash that happened in October of that year, people were jumping out of windows, killing themselves and everything. And that I can remember my mother hired one fellow, and he made a dime for each window that he washed, because they were big windows. The wages were very low, and they were thousands of people were going hungry. And but Roosevelt went and started these camps for young fellows, say from 16 years of age, and they went to these camps in like Forest, and they did a lot of work there. And he started a lot of things. He started a sewing project. If you were a musician or on stage, he had plays that they played certain theaters and like that. And so he got work for them. The average person made $55 a month, and my mother made $90 a month.
Almost
as
double.
a supervisor. Yeah, but only the head ones received that amount of money, and that $55 you could live off of it pretty good, because when you stop to think of it, you could get 3 pounds of asparagus for a dime in those days. And I think eggs were like 10 cents a dozen. You know.
Well, what did she do with her money, her savings? She bought the property in Tam Valley there?
No.
I was just there today. I took pictures of her house.
Did anybody stop you?
No.
Lillian asked permission one time to go see it, and she's total fine,
Yeah.
and they allowed her to come in and see the place.
Oh.
And my mother had bought. They were selling that property. It had been like a cow pasture up there, you know, and different things like that. And so they started selling it, and maybe say the lots then were about $60 a lot or something like that, you know. And so my mother decided to buy it.
How big was the lot? Was her big house, the small house, and how about the one that Aunt Marge and Uncle Bob had
Yeah, my mother owned she owned the house that you kids lived in.
Yeah.
Up to that property.
Oh.
There was one small piece of land in between that a friend of ours who had lived as a tenant in one of the houses my mother managed. When she died, she left a small lot to my mother, but it wasn't big enough to build a house on. It was only one lot, and by then you had to have more space. So she left it to my mother, and her son. She had one son, and he didn't want it anyway. So it was nice. So that gave my mother. She owned the whole deal on that side, and
up to our house and down to hers.
Including your house.
Yeah, and the part in the middle.
Up to when we used to call Peggy. We used to call her Aunt Peggy. She had a brown house, and you kids knew her too.
The one next door to ours?
Yeah.
The one with the chickens. My mom told the story about the chickens getting their heads cut off.
Yeah. Peggy was her name. I can't think of her.
No, Grandma owned that property at one time too?
No, she just owned.
Either side of it?
No, honey.
Oh,
she
okay,
owned
sorry.
from her house.
Yeah, the big one.
Up to the house, including your house.
Okay. Which is 3 houses now. Now it's her big one and the small one, and then.
Yeah. So and then when my mother became sick, she decided to sell the house and built that little place. The 5-room house.
Why? Because she couldn't keep up the big house anymore?
Oh no, it was because it was a 2-story house. It had 4 bedrooms upstairs and an enormous living room.
She had that built herself?
She built it, and she built part of it herself, actually. She built the fireplace all by herself. She went up and down ladders.
She must have been tough.
She put in all the rock work.
How old was she when she did all this?
Well, I don't know.
Or what year? Do you remember what year it was? When she started building it?
I think she started, it was, I would say maybe around 1940. And,
right after my mom was born, she started building that?
Yeah, and,
so that's an
then
old house.
They built a basement first, which became a garage later on. And they lived in there. There was a couple of beds in there.
Was that the first house up there?
One of the very first houses, yes. And so then, as she got money, was able to save enough, she kept building onto it. Now, like half of the living room was there, and then she built onto that, and it became one big room. But she did a lot of that, actually put nails in.
Where did she live while she was building it?
Well, we lived in the city.
Oh, you lived with her?
We lived on 8th Street then.
Did you ever live in that big house?
Oh, yeah, 13. Yeah.
You did as a little girl?
Yeah. No.
No, I mean the big house. Did you live there, though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I get you a drink of water or something?
There you go. I gotta stop. Well, I can't talk.
Okay. I'm having you doing all the talking. So I don't forget what you're saying, though.
We haven't found out where your bishop planets come from, because they did something funny in Georgia.
Who's they? The bishops? Or
No.
the town?
There were all kinds of genealogies on families that lived in Georgia, and they had donated their books to a certain library, and one day somebody gets the what do we want this trash for? And they threw all the genealogies away.
That's terrible.
And they wouldn't do it today, but I mean, that's what happened. And that's the same thing. And then with the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, that destroyed thousands and thousands of records. It's very hard to do the South for this reason, because of wars and courthouses. There would be a fire there. Now, I remember one of your, I guess she'd be your aunt or a cousin, said to me one day, she says, I don't have a birth certificate. She says, they could never find anything out about me. You know, she's just kind of laughing about it, ha. Because I have no record of my birth. The courthouse burnt. Now this was in Alabama. Your father's family lived between Alabama and Georgia, and part of the time they were in North and South Carolina. I don't know, but I think where Grandma Mattie is now.
Mm-hmm. That's Walhalla, South Carolina.
Yeah, they evidently lived quite a bit. And Dr. Crowder, who was your ancestor, was quite a wealthy man. He had a plantation. He went in when it first opened. Although he wasn't really rich then, he was very comfortable. He had a few slaves. But I have his line complete, and I have most of your father's lines done, except for the bishop line. I can't seem to get that. Now, it's possible that there was a lieutenant during the Revolutionary War, about that time, that went into Georgia to do some work for the army. I don't know what it was. But he came from Connecticut, and they say he liked it so much there that he just married and lived there. Now that could have been your ancestor. There's a very